Recording has started. Is being broadcast on Facebook Live.
Touch the leg. A very warm welcome to Ringo Tulku Rinpoche and all our viewers and participants to Introduction to Buddhism Series 2, Four Noble Truths, to celebrate Gratitude Year for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, organized by Office of Tibet, London. First of all, I take this opportunity to once again thank Rinpoche for accepting our request to give monthly talk series on Tibetan Introduction to Buddhism to Tibetan youth. The main objective is to present our youth an opportunity to listen and interact with Tibetan Buddhist masters and scholars about Tibetan Buddhism and culture. To introduce Rinpoche to the audience, Ringo Tulku Rinpoche is the Tibetan Buddhist master of Kagyu order. He was trained in all schools of Tibetan Buddhism under great masters such as His Holiness the 16th Gyawa Karmapa and Tulku Khyentse Rinpoche. Since 1990, Rinpoche has been traveling and teaching Buddhism and meditation at more than 50 universities, institutes, Buddhist centers in Europe, USA, Canada, Australia, and Asia. He also participates in various interfaith dialogues. He authored several books on Buddhism as well as some children's books both in Tibetan and in other languages. One such book is called Lazy Lama Looks at Four Noble Truths. Rinpoche founded Bodhicharya, an international organization that coordinates the worldwide activities to preserve and transmit Buddhist teachings to promote intercultural dialogues and educational and social projects. Rinpoche is the official representative of His Holiness the 17th Gyalwa Karmapa for Europe and founder of Karmapa Foundation in Europe. Before I move to Rinpoche, I request all the participants to go mute, and we have Q&A session afterwards, and I request all our participants to write your names when you have questions to Rinpoche. To those who are watching, those who are joining us on Facebook can also write their questions on comment section. So I will pick the questions if time permits. May I now request Ringo Tulku Rinpoche to speak. Over to you, Rinpoche.
Thank you very much. My age to the three jewels. My first is our leader and our inspiration. Today I would like to try to give a very simple introduction to four after Buddha became enlightened, he became enlightened, or he became a Buddha in Bodh Gaya. under the Bodhi. For 7 weeks, he did not give any teachings. And after that, then he started to walk towards Varanasi, and then in Sarnath, which is now about 9 kilometers from the city of Varanasi, there was a very beautiful forest, which was called Rishipatana, Longwa, Zeta Longwa, where the rishis fell down, which means that that time lots of people from India used to go to the Himalayas to meditate. And after a long time meditating, it is said that they would gain the power to flow. And they would come down back home by air. But when they came on top of this, it was beautiful. They would concentration, and they would get distracted by the beauty of this forest, so they fall down. That's why it's called Rishipatana. So, forest, where he found his 5 friends who were also practicing together with him. And then he approached them, and when he approached them, first they thought they would like to receive the Buddha because they knew him and they knew that he ate some food, so therefore he has kind of given up his penance. They said that we are not going to show any respect, we are not going to stop. Here, then all of us saw very clearly that Buddha had, he had changed. He had such a special glory around him. That he was so peaceful, so glorious, so, his energy was so different. They had no choice but to stand up, and they greeted him, they gave him seat, and they said, please give us.
Rinpoche internet this kagadula.
So he gave his first teaching, and this first teaching was on the 4 Noble Truths. And he gave it to the first students of him, what we call Korngade Zangpo, the 5 of them. So the 5 of them were, sometimes we call him Kunshi, then Tatul, Langpa, Michen, and Zangden in Tibetan. I will not give too much importance to this. You can find in the books. Now, what he taught was the 4 he taught a formula of 4 points to solve all the problems of life. As you know, as we talked about it before, the main teaching of the Buddha, or the main purpose of his trying to search, was to find ways how to get rid of all the sufferings and pain and problem of all the sentient beings. So therefore, when he became enlightened, that was the experience, or he found the way. He found how to do that. So therefore, these four truths are about how to solve problems. Actually, these 4 things solve any problems, actually, because these are what we call as the suffering, cause of suffering, the solution, and then the path to the solutions. So these 4. This we call Denpa Ye. In Tibetan, we write it like this: Denpa Ye. For those Tibetan students who study a little bit of Tibetan but cannot write fully, they can understand from here. Now, and this sometimes we call it 4 noble truths, and it is called Papayi. Papa is translated as noble, and this is not only just solving problems, but solving the complete problems, and it's a way to go to the depth of the causes of all the sufferings and pain and problems of life, and that we can, how can we completely find a lasting peace and happiness in ourselves. That's why it's called Pabidemba, noble truth. Now, this, the first, he said, the Buddha, the first thing he said was, there is suffering. He says, there is suffering, there is causes of suffering, decision of suffering, and there is a path, decision of suffering. These things he said. So, there are problems. There are problems in life. There's pain, suffering in the life, and any problem, we have to, if there's any problem, then he said the second thing, there is suffering, we have to understand it. So this is the first, he said, there is suffering, and we have to understand it. So, any problem there is, we need to really see, understand what exactly is the problem. If we didn't understand fully what is the problem, then we cannot find its causes, and we cannot solve this problem. So in order to solve a problem, we need to understand exactly what is the problem. Then he said, there is the cause of suffering, and we have to eliminate it. So this means that, if we find if we understand what is the problem, then we have to look what are the causes which brings these problems. Because, without understanding what are the causes of these problems, we can never solve these problems. Because every problem has its cause, and many causes may be. So we have to go to the depth of this, and then if we can get rid of these causes, then the problem disappears. So therefore, we need to find the causes, and we have to, eliminate them. That's the second one. So these two, first two are the problem and its causes. And then Buddha said, there is cessation. That means that, any problem there is, it has its causes, and in order to, there is a possibility to solve this. There is a solution. Every problem has its solution. From the very simple problem of life, of mundane life, of suffering. Hello. Cheso. Taya Buddha ya. So this solution, that's called Ngokpa. From Buddhist, from Buddha said that Ngokpa. The suffering or the problem, he called it Dungal. Dungal actually means suffering, but that's the problem. Then the causes of the suffering, he called it Kunjung. Kunjung is the causes. And then the third one is Ngokpa, that is cessation. There is a solution. That's the Ngokpa. So now, what Buddha said was that he was looking, there is lots of problems and suffering in the life. There are, everybody first, generally, everybody has to get old. Everybody has to get sick at one point or another. They will die. These are all painful, suffering. But then, lots of times, we want to get something, but we can't get it, or we don't get it. And that is also suffering. And many times, we don't want to lose something, and we lose them, and that brings lots of suffering. So, there is sometimes wars, famines, diseases, and all kind of sufferings in the world. And lots of these sufferings and problems we can solve, but some of them we cannot solve also. There is nobody who can solve all the problems and all the time. Does that mean that we can never solve our problems and our sufferings? But this is what Buddha's main thing is. Sometimes when people start to study Buddhism, and then they say that dungal, the suffering, the truth of suffering, and then sometimes they think that, Buddhism is only talking about suffering. So therefore life is suffering. So that's all what Buddhism teaches. That's not what it is. From Buddhist point of view, from Buddha's point of view, there is suffering. Yes, there is lots of suffering. But there is cessation of suffering. It can be solved. There are lots of problems that we can solve, or any suffering, or any problem we can solve if we find its causes and we can get rid of it. We can solve them. There are some of the, causes are, more simple causes, more, that we can actually do something outside. We can do something. We can change the situation, and through that we can solve the problem. But there are lots of things that we cannot change that. It is more deeper. Then we have to go deeper in ourselves, and we have to really go to the bottom of this, these causes, and transform there. Like, there are sufferings like, we get sick. We get sick. Then sometimes we can go to doctor, we can take medicine, and we get better. But then, sometimes when you get old and you will die, and there is nothing we can do about it. And we also lose our near and dear ones. And some of the problems and sufferings are not, those kind of sufferings. There are lots of sufferings which actually we cannot change. We cannot get rid of. So therefore, those sufferings, is there no solution to that? This is very important from Buddhist point of view. Even those problems and sufferings that we cannot actually change, Buddha says we can actually do something. What we can do is we can change our way of perceiving them. We can change our own state of mind. And through changing our own state of mind, then the way our emotions work, the way we, see things ourselves, how we see ourselves, and through that we transform ourselves, and thereby even those problems doesn't remain a problem anymore for ourselves. So these are very deep teachings. So therefore, there's a solution to this point of view, and some solutions are by doing something that we can actually change, outside things, or sometimes we have to change something inside. We have to transform ourselves, our way of seeing, our way of experiencing, and therefore, and that way we can change. Now this is the experience, this Ngokpa, or the cessation, is what Buddha experienced. And this is what any great master who has accomplished the Dharma practice experiences, what is called the cessation. We can call it enlightenment also. We can call it cessation also. We can call it sometimes liberation from samsara. And this is very important. And then Buddha talked about the lam, the path, the methods. Yes, there is a solution, but this solution, there are many methods. And these methods and this path we have to train on. And if we train on this path, or paths, because there is not one way. Buddha taught many different ways, many different methods, because each person is slightly different, and they could be on different stages or different levels, or has different ways of thinking and different, different capacities and different abilities and different, state of mind. So therefore, just one method or one way is not going to work. So therefore, he taught many different ways, many different paths. Now this is, these Four Noble Truths is actually everything in Buddhism. In Buddhism, there are lots of different kind of teachings and different kind of practices, different kind of methods. As we already discussed, we have Kanjur and Tenjur. The teachings of the Buddha, the direct teachings of the Buddha, which is translated into Tibetan, are 100 big volumes. You can't even read them. Just going very quickly and reading them will take years. So all of these teachings actually is an expansion of the Four Noble Truths, because there is nothing in Buddhism which is not actually inside, which is not included in the Four Noble Truths. Every different teachings of Buddha, every different schools of Buddhism, every different practice of Buddhism are, actually included in these Four Noble Truths, in this path. So therefore, Four Noble Truths is everything, actually. So the suffering, or the problem in life, this is something very important to understand. We have all these problems and sufferings and pain. And then many times we think, that, if we had like lots of money, if we are very rich, if we have lots of power, if we become very popular, if we have lots of luxury, then we have no problem. Then we will have no suffering, no pain. But it is not completely true. Of course, those things helps. But then there is, we talk about three kinds of sufferings. Because even if we have no real, what can you say? Even if we have almost everything that we need, and we are not sick, we are not, we have everything okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have no problem. Because we could be worrying about things would change. We could worry about things could change. And because of worries, we can have lots of tension, we can have lots of anxiety. And, because it is true, anything can change. So therefore, even if we have everything and everything is okay, if we don't know how to react properly, how to carry our mind in a proper way, we can still have lots of problems. This is very important. So this is what we call as the suffering of change. Then we have another suffering. That is that, we worry because we know that everything can change. And so therefore, even if everything is okay now, the things can change. And so therefore, I worry that I will lose something or I'll get something that I don't want. That's because there is nothing really completely stable. Everything, there's nothing which is totally always stable. Everything is uncertain. There's nothing we can really completely hold on to anything, even our body, even anything that we cannot really. So therefore, everything is insecure. Everything is temporary. Everything is, always there is no security. And that, that is also a problem if we don't know how to understand that and how to carry that in a wisdom way. So therefore, this is called all-pervasive suffering, because this is something that, that is happening to everybody. There is no one which is touched by that. But this also, it doesn't mean that we cannot be free from this suffering. If we know how to understand this, how to carry this, how to see this in a right way, then we can also get rid of this. We cannot. It doesn't become a suffering, but it becomes a strength. It becomes deep and actually are, and thereby, nothing can actually shake us. So it's like, His Holiness Dalai Lama and, those who are really wise, they cannot be shaken by anything. So this kind of, is coming from that understanding. So these three sufferings, but in order to get rid of that, then we have to really go to the causes. So these causes, the deep causes, Buddha talked about lay and nyon mopa, karma and klesha. Klesha is very important because, this nyon mopa in Tibetan, which is written like this, nyon mopa, sometimes it's translated as afflictive emotions. But it's not just emotions. So therefore, some people translate as mind poisons, which starts with ignorance, that not understanding how things are, not understanding who I am or what I am, what is the nature of things, that is what we call ignorance. if we don't see things as they really are, is the main cause of most of our problems, and the deep cause of most of our problems. So therefore, like even negative emotions like anger and hatred, and too much kind of a desire, too much greed, jealousy, all this actually coming from this ignorance, that we think, we don't know how to react in a proper way, and therefore we become angry, hateful, too much greedy, jealous, and things like that. Although those things don't really help us, but we think that will help us, and then we create lots of pain and problem for ourselves and lots of pain and problem for others. So these are what we call nyömopa. And these states of mind, ignorance and hatred and greed and, too much clinging and jealousy and all these things, when we do it again and again, then that causes a pattern or the, habitual tendency in ourselves, we call karma. So therefore, then we always act with that, and that's why we almost automatically react in that way, and then we become in that way. So that's why, what we call karma, although karma actually means action, but action of body, speech, and mind, and especially mind. And especially if you react too much with this negative state of mind, then it creates our own reality. And then, that causes the way we are now, and with lots of pain and problems, suffering, causing suffering for others, causing suffering for ourselves. So therefore, we need to work basically on these two things, the nyömopa and lay, mind poisons and karma. So that's why, the path is what Buddha recommended, eightfold path. Actually, all different kind of practices in Buddhism are included in this eightfold path. So that path is a major part of Dharma in the Buddhism. So I think we don't have time to talk too much about this. So eightfold path again. Okay, is it clear? Can you hear me?
Yes, we clear very clearly.
Okay. Yeah. So next time we will talk about the eightfold path. So I think this time we will stop here. And now, if there's any questions, I'll be very happy to try to explain a little bit.
Rinpoche, I have one question. So
Okay.
my question is that Rinpoche just now said that if we understand Four Noble Truths, then everything is included in Four Noble Truths. So what about Pepe Nangla Tempa Nyi Kunsup Nemba Tendam Demba? So are they included in Four Noble Truths, or how do we connect these two?
Yes. Dembani is, is part of the path. In the path, as I said, Eightfold Path. The first of the Eightfold Path is right view. Right view, Yantapitawa. So in the Yantapitawa is how we see things. How this is to to try to get rid of our ignorance. So we have to try to see things as clearly as possible and as rightly as possible how things are. So Dembanyi is a description of that, how things really are. The description of that is the Dembanyi,
Thank you. So I would like to request our participants to put your questions in the chat box if you have questions. So next, Rinpoche agreed us to give teaching on monthly. So next teaching is on Eightfold Path. So those who wish to attend the webinar can please email us so that we will invite you in our next monthly series. So Rinpoche, there is a question in the Facebook.
Okay.
So it's quite long, so I will read that questions.
Okay.
It says that Rinpoche, recently I went for refuge and took lay vow recently during one of the darkest places of my life. Even though I became a Buddhist at the beginning stage, couldn't live up to Buddhist ethics. My question is, so how can I live up to that without blaming myself and feel guilt and shame?
I think it is like this, in Buddhist path, there's nothing that there is no minimum. There's nothing called this is the minimum you have to be practicing Buddhism. You can do whatever, a little bit better, or anything. That is the idea. That you train. It's a training. In everything, you cannot be perfect. You cannot be perfect. Perfect, then you're already quite, So we can't ourselves to be perfect. There are two things. One is we have what is the ideal way, ideal of thinking, ideal way of reacting, ideal way of, behaving with our body, space, and mind, ideal way of knowing what, how the truth is. But that is, that is the ideal. So then the second is what I am, this is what this is very good to be like this, like this, like this. And this is the best way to, but then if I'm not the most compassionate one, if I'm not the most wise one, it's not the, the perfect way of doing things, the most important thing is I try to train, I try to become aware of, that's why Buddha said this, try to commit unwholesome actions as much as possible. Yeah. At least refrain from doing something very negative. If I do that, at any level, if I don't do one thing, that's like, for instance, in Buddhism, you have 5 precepts. For the general public, the 5 precepts. Not to kill, not to kill a human being, or to be, not to to steal or rob, not to cheat people, not to commit sexual misconduct, and not to get totally intoxicated. Sometimes you take one. It's okay if you say, no, I don't want to kill a human being. And then you can take one, you can take two of them, you can take in Dharma. There are in one sutra of Buddha, he gives 500 different types of upasakas. And one of these is that, if somebody says, cannot give up all these 5 things, even one of them, but I would rejoice if somebody is practicing them. This is also a good one, the starting. Even if I cannot do that, rejoice at somebody doing that is also a good practice. So, therefore, everything is very, very gradual. So any good thing you can do, any negative thing you can give up, any little bit wisdom or compassion or kindness you can develop in you, that's the good start. And then it doesn't mean that you should not become better, but you should not feel guilty, or you should not feel bad, or you should not hate yourself, or despise yourself that you are not perfect. That's not the Buddhist way.
Thank you very much. Rinpoche, there's another question which said, why Lord Buddha taught only 4 noble truths? Is there any harm to taught more than 4 or less than 4?
Actually, in these 4, if you understand these 4, it includes everything. Because, of course, you can expand and then make hundreds of things, but, everything actually, because it's the suffering and its causes, these 2 are about from the negative side, the problem and its causes, and then the solution and its causes. In these 4, actually everything is, all the solution is included, because there's what is left behind now, what is not included in this. What is your problems?
Thank you, Rinpoche. One question is that how does the doctrine of emptiness affect the 4 noble truths?
Doctrine of emptiness is also the right view. I think I talked about this a little bit in my first talk. There are 8-fold path, and 8-fold path, if we try to make it, again, to concise, it can be in 3. And sometimes we call it lapasum, the 3 trainings. Training in wisdom, training in meditation, and training in conduct. So training in wisdom, the first, like what we just talked about, the right view. the right training in wisdom, and all these things like understanding of emptiness, understanding of interdependence, understanding of true truths, even understanding of Four Noble Truths, all this is to do with right view, and it's included in that. It's from Buddhist point of view, that's very important, also because the most problem is ignorance. We don't see things clearly. We don't understand things in the right way, how things are. So therefore, but we capacity to know and understand things rightly. But because of our, our not having the right kind of training, right kind of guidance, right kind of teaching, the negative circumstances in our lives, we are, we don't have that wisdom. We need to develop our wisdom, and we need to increase and awaken that. So therefore, a lot of misunderstanding. So that is, something we need to work on, the wisdom. For that, we need to study, we need to reflect. Of course, to make that become completely our experience, wisdom, all those ideas,
Rinpoche, signal Kyobo Chasra.
No, I think it came back.
No. Shall I ask the next question, Rinpoche?
Yes, please.
There's a question from Facebook viewer. It says, why ego is the root cause of sufferings?
That's also to do with ignorance, because now ego here is that too much self-centeredness. I want this, I don't want this. I only thinking about me and me and me, and completely. I want happiness. I want happiness. I want happiness. I too much. That actually becomes the cause of my unhappiness, because I'm so much feeling, because I want means I don't have. If I say I want, that indicates that I don't have. It makes me feel I don't have. So therefore, I become unhappy because I want happiness too much. That's why sometimes a joke, a little bit of a joke, but also it's true. Somebody, it is. I don't know whether it's really. It's not. It's somebody made it up, I think. But it is said that somebody asked Buddha, how can I become happy? How can I become happy? I want happiness so much. Then Buddha said, okay, first you have to get rid of want. And then get rid of I, and then you have happiness. I want, then I can never have happiness. But if you just allow yourself to be, totally open and totally, relaxed and be, then you will be happy. So that, so ego is itself.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Now, Kekusan-la, can you ask question?
rinpoche textile nge ki chibadi pyoge toni shuchobaji nge chibadi di yinle thangbo di tongni gomye ki gomba thangbo di khande chini gom gogo yume ta tongni gomne penyun di khari yume ji tordi ju soro na shiye tuche
라서 다 돈이 가면에다 인지날 지가 벽에 날 수가
oda injina sona digudu mi mangal pengir walo losi
라서 so the question is what is the how to start meditation on emptiness and what are meditating emptiness. Very well. Now, so I think the first thing is that this is also to do with, as I said earlier, wisdom, understanding how things are. So when we are talking about emptiness, it's one way. It's one way of understanding the nature of things. Yeah, because we have lots of strong kind of tendency to see everything is totally existing as I am here, as I see it. Everything that is truly and concretely, and everything is completely solidly there as I see it. Now there is a kind of a reflection. We have to reflect and see, is it like that? Things that we see, things with that are there, is it exactly truly existing as we experience, or is the way it is something different? That's the idea. That's the. It's not to try to understand emptiness. It's try to understand the truth. How things really are, how I really am. Therefore, if things as they really that would get rid of my ignorance. That would get rid of my misunderstanding of how things are. So therefore, it's very important to see things as they really are. That's the main thing. That's the main problem. It's not about the emptiness, but it's about understanding the way things are, how things really exist. If I understand how I really exist, that I or everything else is not exactly as it looks like, then most of my attachment, my fear, my reaction, emotions disappear because the way we have been relating to things so far could change. So, like if I say this is something very bad, this is something very bad, this is something very bad, I don't want it, I don't want it, and then if I can see that actually this is not the problem, but my way of reacting to that is the problem, then this existing there would not harm me. And therefore, because I understood the way, so I can get rid of that problem. So most of the problems that we have are how we experience, how we see things, so therefore, saying things and saying things rightly is important, and that's the understanding of emptiness. But now, how to start with that? Starting, I think the most important starting is to see the impermanence. I think impermanence, interdependence, and then emptiness. Impermanence is something that we can all see. Things change. Things change all the time. There's nothing that things change. You can't say when things doesn't change because there's not a moment that things are not changing. So everything changes all the time. So when everything changes all the time, if you really can see that, then when is it existing? Because there's no time it's existing because it's all, so that we understand clearly this things doesn't exist as we think it exists. So therefore, its nature is emptiness. And why things change all the time? Because it's not one thing. It's too many causes and conditions, and everything is relatively there, but not truly there. So therefore, it cannot stand still like any, So therefore, that's what we call interdependent. We can, the nature of everything is interdependent or dependently arising. It's not independent. There's nothing independently arising. Everything is dependently arising or dependently existing. And so therefore everything is impermanent, and therefore everything's nature is emptiness. It's not that things are, and there is nothing. It's not, it's not that it's nothing. Everything is there, but how everything is there is, you can call it emptiness, you can call it interdependence. So this understanding can, if we understand it deeply, not just intellectually, but deeply, then it will change our way of reacting to it. Because if we understand that, then even if we lose something, we wouldn't be so upset because we know that, it's like exactly like. So we have too much attachment, we can have too much aversion, and so therefore and this comes from that wisdom of seeing things how they are. Benefit.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. Can I now call Ngawan Dedenla to ask question? Ngawan Dedenla? Ngawan Dedenla,
Hello, can you hear me? It's a bit noisy here.
Yes, we can hear you very perfectly.
Sorry. I was just gonna ask about like how do we know what the right thing to do is, or like what the right perspective to have is, because a lot of our actions have good and bad consequences. Like something we do might be good for someone, but that might also be bad for someone else. Because people are all so different, and especially when it comes to complex issues and like making policies, you have to take into account so many different people. So like, what are the main things that you have to think about when deciding what the right thing to do or like is?
That's what the main thing is. That's why we try to use our, the first and most important thing to try to start with a good motivation. Good motivation is regarded important. That starting with that agenda or motivation that I want to do something that is good and useful for as many people as possible. It's not for to hurt anybody or to anybody or to but help everybody. That motivation is regarded as important, and with that motivation, then we try our best wisdom, from our best of our wisdom, because if we have that motivation, then we will do our best to make it as good as possible. If you want to make policy or if you want to make decisions or whatever, once you do, and then you take that decision and you make whatever policy and things like that. That doesn't mean that it is good for everybody. It is sometimes what we do, try to make it very good, can turn into not so good for some people or for lots of people also, because what we have started can be turned into different ways by different people, and even if the policy is good, its implementation is not good, or some people take advantage of something in it, and so you cannot totally guarantee everything is good for everybody, but that's the best we can do. So I think, and then of course, I think another thing is that we have to see again and again if something is not working, if something needs to change, and if some people, and then complain about it and explain to us that this, this aspect is not good. I think we have to be able to change it, and for that, then we have to be a little bit less ego, because sometimes I made this decision, so therefore nothing can change it, nobody can change it. Maybe that's not so useful. So, but the idea is that we do whatever is possible as useful and good for anybody and everybody, and then if it's good, it works, then it's good. If it doesn't good, then we can stop it, we can reverse it, and I think it's like we have to be a little bit flexible. We have to know and learn and be clear that there is nothing which is good for everybody, actually. Or there's nothing which we can, satisfy everybody. Nobody can satisfy everybody. I think that is something we have to understand.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. We are running short of time, so I'm taking last two questions. So the first one is, could you please explain in simple terms about two truths, or could you please recommend any books on true truth?
There are lots of books on true truths. I don't know which is the simplest one. But, the thing is like this, we talk about Kunzop Tempa and Döndam Tempa. Sometimes we call it relative truth and the ultimate truth. Relative truth is, the things that we can, it works, if to this happens, and if put if we go apple tree and we can get apple fruit, and everything that is going around and happening, everything that is this is called the relative truth, because it's true, but if you look it's really not, nothing. It's not, there's nothing truly. But ultimate truth is that the way, and this everything that is how things are functioning, how things are happening, how things are, the life is around, the world is there, everything is happening. If you look deeply into it, it's all, it's all like a dream. It's all a little bit like a, it doesn't have any independent existence, but it's happening, magically or miraculously, or everything. That is the ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is how things in this absolute way, how things really, really, really are. Ultimate truth. So actually, it's not two things. Actually, these two truths are not two things. The relative truth is how things work, and ultimate truth is how things really are. So therefore, to understand the true nature of everything is ultimate truth, and the things, how things are functioning, is relative truth, and they are both true. But so these two truths very much we have to understand as one, because if we neglect the relative truth, then we become nihilistic. Then we don't believe in karma, we don't believe in interdependence and things like that. But if we don't understand the ultimate truth, then we don't really know how how things really exist. So therefore, if we understand the true truths, then we have the wisdom.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Rinpoche.
Yes?
The last question is that, is there any book or teaching from His Holiness the 16th Karmapa that I can get?
There's a collection of the teachings or the works of His Holiness 16th Karmapa in Tibetan. I think it is some of English maybe, but that was published. I think it's not just one. I think there are about 3 volumes or something like that, which was published a few years ago, and it was published from by the 17th Karmapa Ujjain Doji's publication. I'm not sure how much of that is in English, though. But there is one book, book, which is the kind of life of the 16th Karmapa, with all the different kind of photos and things like that. There is a book. Now I forget the name of the title, but it is something like. Now I forget, Lions Roar or something like that. But if you search, I think on the internet you will find.
Thank you. Rinpoche, if you can permit, can I take one last question from our student, Rangjung and Geshe? Rangjung, are you there?
Excuse.
Yeah, ask your question.
Did the Buddha make the Four Noble Truths?
Yes, this is the Four Noble Truths. I think is kind of the civic teaching of the Buddha, and this was his first teaching, and all the teachings of the Buddha are kind of expansion of the Four Noble Truths. So the Buddha's original kind of discovery, I think. But we feel that the Buddha Sakyamuni is not first. There's been many Buddhas before him, and there will be many Buddhas afterwards. So you can say that I'm sure other Buddhas will teach the same thing or have taught the same or in a similar way. Yes, Buddha, the Four Noble Truths is very much the Sakyamuni's teaching, and I don't know if there is any other master or other who have said something in the similar way. Must have kind of something similar, or slightly. I don't know, but these four notes, especially the teaching of the Buddha.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. With this, we conclude here. On behalf of all the viewers and participants who joined us today, we are very grateful to Rinpoche for your time and knowledge. And next month, we will have Rinpoche's teaching on Buddha's Eightfold Eightfold Path. So all are requested to join us in the next month. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rinpoche.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
대신함